The last month has been such a wild roller coaster ride in the Letecia Stauch trial. From courtroom drama, such as behavioral issues in court by Letecia, to inappropriate behavior by Letecia's lawyer, and the prosecution's mounting frustrations over the expert who testified that she believed Letecia had DID, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. And she was adamant that Letecia loved Gannon and believed Letecia didn't know what she did at the time of the murder, despite the evidence. We found out new information as well that we didn't hear in the past with Letecia's preliminary hearing or during the investigation. But today I'm going to go through what we learned throughout the trial and get into some of the details. So now, let's get into it. As of the time of this recording, we are at the end of the trial where both the prosecution and defense rest. We heard closing arguments and now we are waiting for the jury to make a decision. Letecia had the option of taking the stand. She said she wanted to wait until the doctor who did her evaluation was finished her testimony and then ultimately decided to not take the stand. Now let's dive into these important moments. We learned that Dr. Lewis didn't do the defense any favors and didn't help the prosecution either with direct answers. She would never give a yes or a no answer, making it very frustrating for the prosecution and the gallery and us watching. Dr. Lewis was a mess on the stand. Now, my observation, she would not give a direct answer. As I said, I wonder what she was told before she met Letecia, because it seemed like she already went in with it as Letecia has multiple personalities, can you take a look? Rather than, here's an inmate, she may be full of you know what, she may not, can you check her out? Now, Dr. Lewis defended Letecia. Like I said, she said that Letecia loved Gannon, even though the evidence said that she searched, she searched saying, I don't like my stepson. And the prosecution saying, no, wait a minute, she was aware of her actions. And the only time that DID came up was not until later, until this last psychiatrist, Dr. Dorothy Lewis. And the prosecution said, if his body wasn't found in Florida, do you think we'd be talking about insanity in this trial? Which is a very, very important point. And Josh Tellini, Letecia's defense attorney, said that, Letecia suffered a mental breakdown during this crime and that this extreme violence that she put on Gannon is proof that, a rational person wouldn't do that and use that much force to kill a child. It was stated that Dr. Lewis described Letecia as one of the most mentally ill people she had ever treated, which I guess would go above and beyond Ted Bundy, because she consulted with him. She also consulted, apparently, Robert De Niro for a movie that he did years and years ago called Cape Fear, and then she ended up saying on the stand that he didn't do a very good job in her opinion. But Tellini says this wasn't a pre-planned, calculated killing for some game. This was a psychotic break fueled by rage, attacking a demon from the past. Now, next, there was an outburst by Letecia's brother when he was on the stand. His name is Dakota. He took the stand and immediately cried out, "Why, Tecia?" And it turns out Dakota saw the green suitcase the day he was helping Letecia load the van for her to head to Florida. He asked Letecia if she needed help, as he noticed that she was really struggling with the luggage. She told him no, and when he asked what's in it, she said that there were softball equipment in it, and he felt that there was something not quite right with the whole thing. Now let's get to Harley. Letecia's daughter Harley announced that she was lied to about her deceased father by Letecia. When Harley took the stand, she said she thought her dad was killed by a burglary gone bad, but found out that he actually died by a drug overdose. Her mom lied to her, which is a common theme in Letecia land, but she just found out the week before she took the stand, and she was subpoenaed on there. Harley said that she felt manipulated, and it was kind of one of those things throughout Harley's life that would happen looking back from Letecia. Next, Letecia claimed that an alter personality is the one responsible for murder of Gannon. One of her alters is named apparently Maria Sanchez. No one other than Letecia and Dr. Lewis could corroborate that Maria's story, only those two. And notable, in February of 2020, which in that time frame was after Gannon was thrown from the bridge and before she was arrested, she Googled Spanish girl names, and lo and behold, here comes Maria. And notable, Maria didn't come out to play the entire trial. Also notable, Letecia is an insult to those who actually suffer from DID or any mental health disorders. And here she is faking it, as the other doctor said. Now next, Letecia acted like an ill-mannered teenager in court. Letecia and her lawyer acted like they were on a first date pretty much. This is no joke. They were giggling, smiling, and being inappropriate. In fact, the prosecution said, "I don't know what's so funny over here to my left." Letecia was busted for giving the finger. She was covering her ears, especially when the court played the calls between her and Al, and also when she was on video. She was, however, attentive with Dr. Lewis, and when the defense was talking, and when Gannon's autopsy pictures were shown. Now, not once did Maria come out there either. Also, they played a video of what she thought was supposed to be Maria. She took on that persona with a Russian voice, it was said, but it kind of sounded more like a gangster voice, and a bad one at that. And speaking of toddlers, she also broke out of her cuffs when she was transported, when she was first arrested, and she actually beamed the deputy in the head with a Monster drink. And they pulled over and they said, "Letecia, stop." And she's going, "It wasn't me, I wasn't doing this." And it was a whole, it looked like a toddler. She looked like a toddler. But also later on, she was claiming that's when Maria, that was Maria acting, just like Maria was doing those things to Gannon. Also toddler-like was in court, they showed video of her being in the El Paso County Sheriff's Office being interviewed. And when she was interviewed, she was saying, "Oh, I peed," because she was trying to leave the interview. But then it backfired on her because they said, you can't go anywhere. So she, ups the stakes a little bit, fakes a little bit of a medical emergency, in my opinion, everybody else's opinion except for Letecia, and then goes and ends up at the hospital. We also learned that she was picked up nearby the hospital because she didn't want to do a SANE kit. So she left the hospital and went to a fast food place. Her daughter Harley and Harley's coworker came to pick her up. And as soon as she entered the vehicle, she said to the coworker, "Oh, I hope you don't think we're a bunch of murderers." And one more toddler moment, there's a lot more, but one of them was that when she was in a parking lot, she actually was approached by agents and they wanted her to hand over the keys to Harley's vehicle. Harley was in the store, Letecia was out in the parking lot, and they wanted the phone of Harley as well because they already had taken Letecia's phone. And Letecia had the keys and she chucked them across the parking lot, took off, and they ended up catching up to her, and then they grabbed her and told her about the search warrant and whatnot. So this was just after she was hiding in the back seat while Harley drove and being paranoid that somebody was following her, and in fact somebody was following her. Now the other doctors and experts throughout the trial testified, and not one person or 1 ounce of a comment of the diagnosis of DID. In fact, everybody else said that she acted quite sane, and magically, and actually that's one of the words of Dr. Lewis, said magic, it was magic. Magically, the only person that it mattered to act like Maria was in front of Dr. Lewis. And Dr. Lewis somehow believes everything that Letecia says. And when the doctors did look at her, besides Dr. Lewis, they believed that she was feigning or faking being insane, and they mentioned that numerous times. Now, next is her Google searches. These were something else. We heard new searches in the trial. She doesn't like her stepson. She was researching or searching about a decomposing body before Gannon was found. She was looking for facial reconstructive surgery, finding a new man. When does the FBI take over the case, make a fake Snapchat video? How long does a body start to decompose in a bag? I need to change my look to hide. It keeps going and going and going. She also wanted to get a fingerprint rubber to make a fingerprint, it says. And how to make my fingerprints not scan. What does a dead body look like after a month? And Letecia was peeking at those autopsy photos. She asked, do they check in ditches under bridges? Can I get a plea with no jail time? Now next, Al and Letecia had 14 recorded calls where Al kept his composure and did a great job on that phone, and given the circumstances, and Letecia just fed him a bunch of lies. And while Al was on the stand, he also did an incredible job. He held his boundaries. He asked for clarification on things, especially when Mr. Tellini brought up a picture and showed a picture of, I believe it was the one with Gannon and Letecia at the Garden of the Gods, and Mr. Tellini left it up there. And Al said, come grab this. I don't want it up here. And he also asked Mr. Tellini to clarify things, because at one point he was asking Al, or he was saying, well, you think Letecia's intelligent? And Al was going, can you show me where that is? I'd like to see that. I'd like to see my exact words, kind of thing. So good for him for putting up boundaries and for looking after Gannon, of course. And that was an important point, in my opinion. Now, there was also an interview shown with Agent Grusing. And Letecia finally admitted that she made up stories to Al about Eduardo and the pals, but she also lied to law enforcement. And Agent Grusing said that Letecia would only describe Gannon's characteristic, but she wouldn't describe the last memory she had of Gannon. And he said that's because it was most likely horrible. Now, another interesting thing, a couple days before the trial was wrapped up, there was a motion that was submitted by the defense asking to drop all charges against Letecia. And it was specifically, it said, focused on the first-degree murder charges that Letecia is facing. And it's interesting that Josh Tellini was looking at these details when he couldn't even get her name correct. He says that there was a lack of evidence from the prosecution proving that the murder of Gannon was premeditated. However, now more than ever, it looks like beyond the premeditation we thought it was. And Gannon never stood a chance, even though he fought for his life. We learned that Gannon was burned, he was shot, he was stabbed 18 times, and he was hit 4 times in the head that fractured his skull. And he was drugged, and he fought back. She put him in a suitcase and put him in the storage room and covered it with a bunch of boxes. Then later, she called authorities and called him in as a runaway. And the prosecution said, just by looking at these injuries, what does that tell you? Gannon was defending himself. He was fighting off. Despite having hydrocodone in his system, despite being lethargic, he was able to fight her off. 18 times she took a knife and stabbed him, Mr. Young said from the prosecution. Also in the trial, it was stated that from the evidence, they were able to surmise that Gannon was in bed for part of the time and also likely on the floor for the other part of time. Remember the interview from Spencer Wilson with Letecia's dumb head turned towards everybody else? Well, Spencer said that Letecia pulled up next to him and was bugging him and being condescending about his coverage of the search. He said Letecia seemed angry at the fact that the search was getting so much attention in the media. And he said when he offered Letecia to do the interview and to state her concerns and message to the community, that Letecia agreed, but only with her back turned to the camera. Remember how weird that was? And she said that was because she was concerned for her safety. And Spencer also testified that at the end of this video where we saw Letecia crying, that she took a couple cracks at it, and he said it was quite contrived. We also learned throughout the trial that Letecia called Gannon's mom, Landon, from Gannon's phone, and in my opinion, that was a strategy session from Letecia just to poke the bear. Also, there was DNA found to shoes belonging to Letecia. They found DNA from Gannon on a scrub brush, his toothbrush, couch, area rug, suitcase, blankets, Gannon's fingernails, empty Heinz vinegar bottle, Amazon box, bed sheet in a laundry basket, Gannon's bed, pillows, the base of the stairs, carpet, electrical socket, electrical outlet cover, and Letecia had several burner phones as well. One of the things that was pretty big to me through the trial is finding out that when the authorities arrested Letecia, they found a blanket in her suitcase that had Gannon's blood on it. So immediately I go to trophy. What do you think below? Let me know. Now, the forensic psychologist, who was one of the first ones to assess Letecia, she said, I did not believe she had a severe mental illness. She said that Letecia did act a little odd, such as humming to herself and talking to vampires, apparently. But she said Letecia didn't really seem to fit what was going on, and that was said quite a few times. And Letecia's answers to some tests was actually implying that she manipulated these answers. And the psychologist said she was talking to people on the phone in jail and saying illogical things. She said that she wasn't doing well and losing her mind, but when she talked to Harley, she had clear, coherent requests when talking to her daughter on the same date. She was actually heard saying also that she would pass sanity tests with flying colors. So there's been a lot of chitter chatter, and there's been a lot of opinions about the first psychologists, plural, who assessed Letecia, and that was closer to the date of the murder rather than way off in November of 2022, just recently, really, with Dr. Lewis. It's strange, very, very strange. Back to the stories that Letecia told, there were more than we originally thought. We thought it was Eduardo and Quincy and all these, but we found out about a pregnant woman and Uncle Matt, and a pregnant woman that's not pregnant because she stuffed her belly full of money. It goes on and on. And one of the other things we found out was that Letecia tried to bribe a member from the neighborhood, and it really does go on. But at the end of the day, it's about a little boy, an 11-year-old little boy named Gannon Stauch, who had an entire lifetime to live. And he never gets to grow up. He never gets to be around his mom and his dad. He never gets to be around his siblings. This is a case that I've covered here at It's a Crime for 3.5 years. And it will never, ever, ever, ever leave my heart. And I know for you watching, you probably feel the same way. This has been a hard month, a hard 3.5 years. And I'm not family. I'm not his family. I'm just Linda from It's a Crime. And I can't imagine what it's like for his mom and dad and loved ones. I did a live stream the other day for almost 9 hours. We were hoping for a verdict, and that never came. However, I urge you not to worry. I have full faith in the prosecution. I know they laid out the best they could, and they did a great job. I don't know what happened with Dr. Lewis, but it was a little bit of a you-know-what show. But I think that's a good thing. And I said this in the beginning, that if an attorney can't even get her name right and said Stauch throughout the whole thing, which if I never hear that again, that would be too soon. But if he can't even do those details, he's not going to get it right. And here we are. So it's a good thing. A little painful the last couple days to listen to that, but it's a good thing. Letecia premeditated this. She started as soon as Al left, in my opinion. And she did everything that she could to annihilate this little boy. And then she also took the steps to cover it up. Thankfully, she didn't do a good job, but at the cost of a little boy. Now, things you might not know is Letecia wrote the judge in previous years, numerous times. Letecia wanted pink lights on for herself to support her cause, not Gannon. She didn't search for Gannon. And she created such trauma for these families. And on top of that, she decided to lie over and over and over again. Meanwhile, she's torturing the man she's supposed to love, her husband, with extra stories on top. She is not crazy. She is not insane. She's just a master manipulator, and something she's used to for years and years and years. So don't worry. Justice is coming. If it's tomorrow, then it's tomorrow. If it's by Friday, it's by Friday. But I have full faith that justice is going to be served, and she will never do this to another human being or child ever again. And we're going to be there for it. I will be live streaming the verdict. And let's hope, because I'm told that it depends about sentencing. If it's the judge, it's up to the judge. So it could be that same day. It could be a different day. It could be weeks from now. It just depends on him. I think that the judge is going to make it quick, if he can. I also think that we should all be prepared for what Letecia does when the verdict is given. She's misbehaved in court. She's misbehaved in these last 3.5 years, and she is about to misbehave again. And this is not going to be, unfortunately, the last we ever hear of Letecia Stauch. However, hopefully there's some comfort that she can be sitting behind bars, and this isn't going to be a picnic because she's not going to be able to be at the county jail anymore. So she can talk about her threats to her peanut butter all she wants. And now I can speak Spanish and say, adios. Let's give the blue hearts for Gannon, our little buddy. Justice is coming, and it's beyond time. See you at the verdict.